Hello and welcome to an episode of Total Drama Multiverse Reloaded that took me way too long to think of a challenge for, but I thought of a really good one. But before that, we have our pre-challenge section, so let's get into it. So there's not too much to say here, except for that nerves are high. There's a very clear split down the middle between Sky and Ash and Patrice and Ezekiel, and because of that, they've kind of just been ignoring each other, the two teams. Obviously, Patrice and Ezekiel have been kind of flirting, and Ash and Sky, I mean, they're kind of just existing together at this point. So, yeah, there's not too much else going on here. I mean, Sky's still her depressed, anxiety-filled, terrible self. Well, I guess not terrible. She's actually a really good person, but you know what I mean. And, I mean, Ash is just trying to win. He's the most nervous because he knows damn well that unless he wins immunity, he's going to have to face a tiebreaker. So he really wants to win immunity because obviously they're not going to want to go in a tiebreaker against this freaking beast. Or challenge beast. So let's go ahead and see if he can win that immunity in our challenge section. Okay, so this is a pretty big challenge, but I really like it because it references pretty much every major event throughout the season that at least happened during the game show. Well, most of them at least. You'll see. So this is going to be Challenge 45, Past Problems. In this challenge, each member will have a list of 4 items that represent the eliminated contestants closest to them. That can be they're closest to them because they liked them or because they didn't like them. These will be spread out across the island and hidden in spots where those contestants had important moments throughout the season. First, together, all 4 win immunity. So let's quickly go over. I'm not going to say where they are. I do have a guide for myself because I'm not going to remember all that to where each one is, which you'll find out whenever they find them. But let's go over what each person has. So for Sky, I gave her finding Bruce's Batarang. This is because they had a very big, the Power Alliance at the beginning of the season. Grimm's Sickle, which is also a kind of the newer member of that Power Alliance, and Jinwoo's Jacket, which was another member. Now, the 3 of them all have one thing in common. They are people that started out completely on Sky's side, and now all were not on the best terms with Sky whenever they were eliminated. So mainly that goes for Grimm and Jinwoo, but Bruce a little bit as well. And as for Puss's Boots, I gave it to Sky. You're going to see this. This is one that's not as big of a problem, but some of these later do feel like a bit of a stretch just because, like, I didn't really know what to do. Also, I just said that it represents the eliminated contestants. I forgot to change it. I'll change it on the thing that you're seeing right now. But they actually don't have to be eliminated because I couldn't think of enough eliminated contestants that actually would have like an actual relationship with some of these people. So like, for example, Ezekiel still has a Patrice thing, and Patrice has a Sky and Ezekiel thing, but nobody can have the same person twice. Anyways, I gave Sky Puss's thing because Sky did the whole investigation and found that cave and found the blood on the wall and all that. But Daisy's not here, who would actually have that fit way better. As for Ash, I obviously gave him 2D's mic. I was going to give Sky Daisy's crown since that would make a lot of sense for her, but I feel like I needed Ash to have more than just one person who actually made sense for him, so I gave him Daisy's crown. Because obviously he was hypnotized by her for most of the season. And then as for Alice and Mel, I gave him their halo and bandages. And honestly, those are kind of just big stretches. They were technically on the same side for parts of the merge, especially Alice, and they interacted a lot, mainly like Ash and Mel, since they both got to Final 5. So I gave them to Ash, but it isn't as close. As for Patrice, the most obvious one was Lena's amulet, since that was kind of like her bestie throughout the beginning of the pre-merge, as well as kind of Ezekiel, but not as much. Mainly once it turned into 2 teams. So, yeah, for that, I think that just fits perfectly. As for Six's jacket, this is honestly, whenever I tell you all the spot where Six's jacket's hidden, it's so hard. Not even just because it's a really small jacket, you'll see. But Six had the whole thing with killing Lena and Patrice, and also Grimm later in the season, but that's not what I'm talking about here. But so I gave her that, and then this is where I couldn't think of anything else because I also had to give like Tristan to Ezekiel, for example. So I gave Patrice Ezekiel's beanie Ezekiel's bow and arrow. What the heck? I don't know how I got that wrong. Ezekiel's bow and arrow and Sky's pet Ollie. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I've said this a few episodes back, but it's never come into play, so it's never really mattered. But the beanie that, or hat, or whatever you want to call it, that's on Sky's head, that's actually a living creature that can become like a huge ball that she can kind of like ride around. And it's a girl, and her name is Ollie. So yeah. And then as for Ezekiel, I obviously gave him Tristan's earring and Lauren's jackhammer. And Lauren doesn't actually use her jackhammer at all during the season, but I needed something to represent her. And it just obviously makes sense for me to get those two, as well as getting Patrice's backpack. But the only one that I think is probably the biggest stretch here is I gave Ezekiel the collector's pizza bagels because I really couldn't figure out who else to give without giving him like someone else had already had, which I didn't want to do because then it would just be weird. Because it's like, what if one person accidentally finds one for their person, but it's not the right one they're supposed to find? It just would be annoying. So technically, the Ezekiel and the collector were on the same side for a bit, although they never really interacted with each other that much. So I just had to do what I had to do. But without further ado, let's actually get into how I think these guys would do in this kind of challenge. I said do 4 times. So I think that since Sky realizes that, I can teleport around, she would be able to get the first one really easily. And that's Puss's boots. Like, Puss in Boots is boots. And the reason she knows that is because she knows the whole thing from Daisy, and she knows that Daisy was, well, it wasn't actually Daisy, but while Daisy had Mex's inside her, she killed Puss in Boots. So, which, by the way, Lauren doesn't know that, but Lauren does know that that's the last place he was spotted. Because kind of like, Sky gave her like part of the story, but not the whole story. Just to not freak her out. So anyways, she teleports over to the villain's cave and grabs them pretty easily. They're just hidden on the, well, I guess not hidden, but they're on the wall that says thanks for or pleasure doing business with you. I forgot what I said it says exactly, but they're propped up against right there. So yeah, I think the next one that I think Patrice and Ezekiel would be able to get a few of theirs pretty quickly. And I'd say that Ezekiel is able to be like, okay, big moments, I know exactly where to go for Tristan because he was part of this big moment. So he runs over to like across the island to the hill where when everyone was spread out a few episodes back, Tristan was spread out. And it's where Tristan fought Tristan's dad. So Ezekiel looks around and ends up finding the earring stuck in some dirt on the ground right where Tristan had pinned the dad down a few episodes back. So Ezekiel, he picks it up, and that's a pretty easy dub for him. Another one I think would be pretty easy is Patrice would probably check a few spots for Ezekiel because he has done quite a bit throughout the season. But I think she'd eventually be able to find Ezekiel's bow and arrow. And it would be hidden outside the hangar where Zeek and Patrice had their first chat. If y'all don't remember, that was literally in episode 1 before the game show even started. So yeah, and when she does this, she hears something from inside the hangar, and she goes inside cautiously and gets jump scared by Ollie, who's inside the hangar where Sky used her rift powers as well as this part of the 0-point chart in the hangar to bring everybody onto the island. So she kind of just killed 2 birds with 1 stone there. She has 2 of her items. But don't worry, she's not going to be winning anytime soon, that's for sure. I think that as for Ash, he'd probably be able to figure out... Actually, I don't really know. He kind of has some pretty hard ones. I think that... Yeah, no, the main problem is that he has Daisy's crown and Alice's halo. The problem with both of those is those big moments he wasn't paying attention to. He really wasn't even related to those moments. So eventually Lauren will start giving hints, but not yet. So I think that the next person that Sky would be able to get would probably be Jin Woo's. Now, I do want to say, you'll see this with a lot of the places where things are hidden. This is a huge, huge island. With the episodes only taking place about a week from each other, Chris and now Lauren have just decided that they're going to leave all the remnants of the old challenges just around the place. And they can go just look around them whenever there's not a challenge going on until at the start of next season if they do another season, which y'all know that there's going to be another season, and then they'll clean them all up. So it would have taken Sky a while, but she's able to just teleport around the remains of the maze from the comeback challenge until she gets to the end of the maze, and at the end she can see covered in thorns Jin Woo's jacket, and she's able to grab that pretty easily. Now what do I think would happen now? I think Ash would start asking for hints, because remember, Ash really wants this immunity, and kind of feeling a little bad for him because he does have some pretty hard ones. This is where Lauren would give him a few hints, and how he would give them the hints is by telling him what the big event was for Alice and for Daisy, because he can figure out 2D and Mel's on his own. So, or at least Lauren thinks so. So Lauren says that Daisy, it's whenever she tried to get Guinevere medically evacuated, and for Alice, it's whenever she did get Lena medically evacuated. So thinking back, I think Ash would be able to remember what had happened, and he runs into Chef's Diner, which is from the food fight challenge, but also is actually the diner where Chef would cook, although not right now because he's busy being in a freaking multiverse war. But she runs in, and she looks around the place, and eventually she's able to find it in the back where Alice originally poisoned Lena. It's like in the back where like the kitchen and all that is, not just out in the place. So then while he thinks about Daisy's, I think this is where Ezekiel would be able to find his next one. Now the reason he didn't find this a lot sooner is just because it would have taken a very, very long time to get there. Because it's just so hidden and random, and he wasn't really paying attention to it while he was in the situation because of what the situation was. And that situation was during the Halloween special, the costume contest. Patrice was traumatized by Bruce coming out dressed as a zombie, or at least her trauma came back, and they ran into the woods where Ezekiel, Tristan, and Patrice had their talk, and Patrice fell asleep on Ezekiel, and that whole very nice emotional moment. Well, eventually he's able to stumble through the woods until he finds the place, and he finds Patrice's backpack. So, good for him. So, let's quickly go over who has what left. Well, we still have Sky, who needs to get Bruce's Batarang and Grimm's Sickle. So, she needs 2 more things. Then we have Ash, who still needs to find 2D's mic, Daisy's crown, and Mel's bandages. So, he needs to really lock in. Then we have Patrice, who still needs to find Lena's amulet, Six's jacket, and that's it. So she needs to find 2 more things. And then finally, we have Ezekiel, who needs to find Lauren's jackhammer and the collector's pizza bagels, which is also 2 more things. So everyone has 2 more things except Ash, although he's about to find his next one because he really just doesn't know what to do for Mel, but knowing that Lauren thinks that he knows the big event, he thinks to the only possible time where there was a big event with Mel. So he goes to the elimination ceremony where she was just eliminated like the week before. That's a FNAF book. And there is where he finds her bandages. By the way, I'm cutting through a lot of this. This would take a really long time in canon. Like, they would be checking spots, thinking a lot. They're not just honed in on these. But I think the next one that would be found is a pretty easy one for Patrice, and it just takes a while because she has to scale a freaking mountain to get there. And what she finds is Elena's amulet at the top of the left mountain where she fought Magica. Now, what Patrice has been doing, 1, she had to go up the mountain, but 2, she's been going to all the different spots where Magica had been fought by Lena, and technically by like Grimm and by everyone else. So, because Magica had a lot of big moments throughout the season. Not a lot of them were even talked about, only the ones that really mattered to the plot, but she would still, like, just attack. Like, it got to a point there, I think I said this, like, 10 episodes ago, it was getting to a point where, like, daily she was launching attacks. So, yeah, she's able to find Lena's amulet. By the way, these props are not, like, the actual things, they're just fake versions of them. So, it's like, Bruce's Batarang isn't actually on the island right now. But Patrice has come down to 1 item. However, it's definitely the one that's hidden the hardest out of everyone. It's Six's jacket. but we'll come back to that. Because first, I think Ezekiel is able to make it to the other side of the island near the hangar and the eliminated contestants' house, where he gets to the McLean household. And he goes into Lauren's room, which normally he's definitely not allowed in, but he sneaks in anyway because he believes that's where it is. And he's right. He finds in there Lauren's jackhammer, where two big things happened. One, right before the show started, she had to fight her voices in there and have that big talk with Chris. But two, this is where she became the host. Ezekiel was in the doorway when it happened. That's how he remembers this. But Chris told Lauren that she was the host now. And Chef was there too. So now he's come down to just the collector's pizza bagels. Then I think that the next thing that would be found is, at this point, Sky has just been rifting around for a while, trying to find anything, and she'd end up finding some of the other people's stuff, but she couldn't bring herself to sabotage, because technically Lauren never said anything about sabotage, so it would be allowed, but she still can't bring herself to do that. But eventually she has an idea, and she rifts over to the trash pile. There are so many like POIs. I need to draw like a map of this. That'd actually be really fun. I might do that eventually. But there's the big trash pile, and she looks around for a bit, and she ends up finding lodged in the fence Grimm's sickle. Now this is here because this is where he threw out Mex's, which definitely was plot significant. So yeah, that's where I decided to put that, and that's where she finds it. So now all she has left is Bruce's batarang. So now everyone has only one thing left, except for Ash, who has two things left. And I think that this is where... do I think that Ash would be able to find one of the two things? I think so. I think that after learning about what Daisy did, he knows that she tried to medevac Guinevere. And after thinking about it for a while, he knows that Guinevere, after that, because he does remember Guinevere getting mad before the spell happened, getting mad at Daisy for the event. But Guinevere, after that, looked all screwed up, what she always did, but he didn't know that. He's never thought about that she always did, and she just had the illusion thing over her. But she looked all screwed up, so he's like, what could even possibly do that? Well, it would have to be a big fall. So he scales up the middle mountain, and he's wrong, but he doesn't lose hope, as he sees, at the same time, he sees Patrice going up the left mountain. They're not near each other at all, but like he can just see while he's going down the middle mountain, he can see Patrice going up it, just barely. So he decides to go up the right mountain, and sure enough, when he gets up there, he finds Daisy's crown right at the edge of the mountain. So he picks it up, meaning that he only has his best friend on the island's thing left with 2D's Mike. So let me quickly go over all four of these remaining spots. We have Bruce's batarang. This is in the cabin, the girls' cabin, where he and Guinevere had their talk, and Guinevere initially revealed her true form to Bruce. Then we have 2D's Mike, which is at the holding area for the eliminated contestants, where he planned his revenge on Daisy with the Collector and Tristan. Then we have for Patrice, she still needs to find Six's jacket. Let me actually say Ezekiel's first, because that one's so ridiculous. Ezekiel's is the Collector's Pizza Bagels, which is in the back room of the abandoned Buc-ee's from the Build a Buc-ee challenge. Which, yes, even those things are still on the island, but they've just kind of fallen into disrepair. They just kind of exist now. They're not, like, ruined, but, you know. The only reason that Maze was ruined is because they had the big freaking anime battle there. But as for Patrice, hers is kind of bullshit. So, for Six, I was originally going to put Six's jacket on the top of the middle mountain. But I didn't do that because that would mean that Patrice has to scale 2 mountains. And the reasoning was okay. It was just that the middle mountain is where in the beginning Patrice and Lena were killed by Six in like one of the beginning episodes. But I decided against that. I could see in canon Patrice going up that mountain and then being pissed that it's not there. But the other big thing Six did that didn't have anything to do with like Alice is in the VR challenge, she threw Grimm across, which ended up affecting Grimm and making Grimm scared of her, and eventually kind of helping get her out once Grimm joined the game. Remember, Grimm's name, by the way, is Grimm Foxy. I just say Grimm. But because of that, obviously, they're not going to go to the VR world right now. So, instead, Lauren has put Six's jacket on the VR, or on a VR, inside the production tent, just because that's where a bunch of electronics are. And yes, the production tent exists. It's basically the same thing from the episode where DJ is eliminated in normal Total Drama Island. So yeah, that one's kind of bullshit. But really, I think that the only two I see actually winning this is Ash and Ezekiel, because I don't think Sky would be able to think about that in time. And I think that Ezekiel actually makes it into the Buc-ee's, and he opens the back door, and while he knows the pizza bagels are in here, they're not the only pizza bagels in here. Because remember, the Collector put an insane amount of pizza bagels in here, and they're all rotting now. So he has to go through all the rotting pizza bagels until he can find the fresh pack. And while he does this, unfortunately for him, Tootie is able to find the mic by thinking, Ash is able to find Tootie's mic by really thinking about it, knowing that he would know what this is, and then he wouldn't even really know about the whole scheming or whatever, but he does know Tootie was eliminated and had his whole scheming over there. Plus, Tootie was also eliminated twice this season, so that would probably be more of his logic as well, that since he was eliminated twice, he'd probably be at the elimination holding area. So, all that to say, Ash is able to pull through just barely and win the immunity. So now we can move on to our post-challenge section, where Ash is feeling great about himself, and Sky is feeling pretty confident as well. But Patrice and Ezekiel are kind of terrified. They don't really know which one of them is going to be going up in this tiebreaker. So they've both kind of just been training as much as they can, trying to train each other for like teleporting and stuff. But I mean, I don't even know how they really do that, so it's not working out too well. And they're kind of just hoping that maybe they have some kind of interesting tiebreaker that they can take advantage of. So yeah, we can move on to the actual elimination ceremony. And in this ceremony, obviously, Patrice and Ezekiel go for Sky. And Sky and Ash, they debate between Patrice and Ezekiel, but I think that Sky would end up saying that, okay, look, I do want to get out Patrice, but I don't want to get out Patrice by crushing her in a tiebreaker. She feels very confident right now by crushing her in a tiebreaker. So can we please go Ezekiel? And Ash is like, yeah, but why? And Sky's like, well, me and Patrice obviously aren't on good terms right now, but we were friends at one point. Meanwhile, with Ezekiel, Sky only really knows Ezekiel through Patrice and vice versa, so she would feel less bad about it. So Ash is like, you know what? I don't care. Either way, I'm getting to the final two. And yeah, that's what they do. They have 2 votes Ezekiel, and it comes down to a tiebreaker. And Lauren announces that the tiebreaker will be they must simply find their last 2 items, or well, their last item for both of them. So Sky needs to find the Batarang, and Ezekiel needs to find the pizza bagels. Well, Ezekiel is like, hell yeah, I know where they are. I've already sorted through like half the rotten pizza bagels. I just need to find it. And he runs off. Now, Sky starts arguing with Lauren, because while Lauren does like Sky, she's obviously being, like, this is the most annoying, obvious kind of favoritism that Lauren's used throughout the entire show so far. Like, she's said that she's not going to do it anymore because she has given advantages to, like, just kind of semi-obvious advantages to some of the contestants in the past. But this really just feels unfair for Sky. And then Lauren's like, well, I'm sorry, but you can teleport, so I got to give him something. And Sky is pissed, but she uses this anger to focus and lock in. And we have one of her best feats throughout the series so far coming up right now. And this is, she starts crackling with all the 0-point energy inside of her. And she riffs around the entire island. And when I mean around, I mean every single inch of the whole island, looking around each spot, every location, all 3 mountains, every room, everything, just rifting around over the course of like 30 seconds. She gets across the entire island and scans it under the island, above the island, everywhere that it could possibly be. And she's able to clear her mind enough to, and use that anger to fuel her enough to see the Batarang lodged in the girls' cabin, which, by the way, the girls' cabin is not where they sleep. They don't sleep, or they kind of just sleep in the merge cabin, which is a little weird when you think about it, but I'm just doing that mainly because I feel like it'd be kind of dumb for her to wake up, see the Batarang right next to her when she wakes up, and be like, huh, I forgot where this is. Because Lauren would have had to hit him like the night before. She probably got, I like to think that, well, I guess I could make it canon, but Tootie, Tristan, and Mel are still on the island, so with their help, she hid them all around the island. And also, they would know a lot of the other events that Lauren herself wouldn't know, gameplay-wise at least. Well, she finds it and she rips it out of the wall and rips it to Lauren and slaps it into her hand. And then she scowls at her, and Lauren is just like, okay. And Lauren calls through the speakers, which, by the way, reach across the entire island like they do in the original Total Drama with Chris's speakers. And it says, or they say to Ezekiel that he has sadly been eliminated, which really sucks for Ezekiel as he had just found them. He had gone through every single rotten one and just found the fresh ones. So Ezekiel is eliminated, and not only is Ezekiel mad, but Patrice is mad as well. And she doesn't like crash out or anything, but she's just like kind of crying a little bit because she knows at this point she's cooked as well, or at least she thinks she knows. But Ezekiel comes up to her and is able to calm her down by wrapping his arms around her, and they share a kiss. So yeah, this is honestly breaking the fourth wall now. The episode ends. This is honestly gonna be my favorite ship I've had so far, because like most of my ships, there's not a lot of them, right? Because I don't know, I just haven't really done that as much, even though these kind of shows definitely do a lot of shipping. Last season, I think the only real ship we had was between Izuku and Monica, and I liked that one. I just didn't like how it was at first. Like the first like 5 episodes of it, it felt kind of cringe and forced, but then it got good. Especially by now when they appear, it's pretty good. But then this season we've had 2 ships, I think. One was Samus and Steve, which those people, along with Goofy, might be like the least plot relevant characters ever. I need to do more with them. If I do, though, it probably won't be this season. We'll see if I can incorporate them at all, because I want everyone to at least matter a little bit. But Samus and Steve was kind of more for jokes, but I really liked this one, especially since, obviously, Ezekiel's a McLean, his sister is the host, and his father was the old host, and Chef also is there. So we're obviously not going to be done seeing Ezekiel for a while, which means we're not going to be done seeing Patrice for a while. So, yeah, overall, I really liked how I handled this. But that is going to do it for this episode. And before I go, and y'all see those post-credit scenes, I want to say that I am very thankful for all of the video suggestions I have gotten over the past week or so. But damn, do I have a lot. I have like 25 of them already, and I haven't even added all of them to the Google Doc yet. So I'll say this in a few other videos as well, because I know the Multiverse series isn't watched by everybody, but I am going to be cutting off those until I say otherwise. So probably for the next like week or so, just so I can catch up, because I plan on doing like 1 suggestion a day. Like I'll probably have part 2 of the Adventure Camp All-Stars with all of the cast members come out today, from Gen 1 and Gen 2. And tomorrow I'll have probably like 2 challenge suggestions. I also need to do more of the Total Drama action what ifs, and not to mention that the Adventure Camp 2 remake's going on still. So there's a lot of stuff. I just want to kind of catch up a little bit, but eventually I will open them back up because y'all have had some amazing ideas. Same with challenge suggestions for the Total Drama Multiverse. Those will be over, I said this last time, up until a few episodes into Season 3, but I will inform y'all when y'all can add those back, because y'all have added some really good challenges as well. But until all of that, see ya. Okay, so I want to start off this post-credit scene by saying that I thought something's felt off for these past few episodes, and I couldn't put my finger on why. Well, I looked back at the footage, and it turns out that Peely had just been completely Thanos-snapped off of my tier list. I have no idea how that happened, but I got him back, so yeah, he's just been with the Heroes team, so nothing interesting's gone on with him outside of him just helping the Heroes team. But we do actually need to talk quite a bit about the Heroes team, as they're trying to figure out what to do. They're all in a beat-up, worn-out shape after their fight with Sasha and that golem thing and all the toads. And they're all just kind of in a hideout right now, trying to figure out what to do, while Sasha is trying to figure out how the Calamity Box works, since the only one who really knows how it works, outside of like Peely, Hope, and Jones, is Andreas, and obviously he's not here right now. He's with the other villains. So she's trying to figure that out. But while she does, the heroes are trying to figure out their own plan. And what they end up figuring out is that they need to have more people. They have a lot of strong people, but they need more soldiers to combat this, or else they're not going to be able to do anything. So Hope and Chef split up to go get some people. And while Chef just goes to get some randoms, or at least, well, they're not randoms to y'all, but they do feel random. Hope goes and she ends up seeing a huge amount of energy signals on the island, and she's really confused about what's going on there. Well, she rifts there on the Reality 37 island, the one where the game show takes place. She rifts over there, and what she sees is Sky like crackling a bunch, because this was right when Sky had just won the tiebreaker. So Hope goes up to Sky and she starts arguing with Sky about how that could definitely lure threats here. Like, for example, in one of the Fortnite seasons, the 0 Point was acting up a lot, and it actually ended up luring Galactus, the guy from Marvel, to the island to try to consume it, and they had to have a whole war over it, and it happens a lot. So Hope got onto her. They have a whole argument, and it does not go well. But then Hope is like, well, while I'm here, maybe I can go ask Lauren if there's anyone I can recruit. So she goes up to Lauren, and she's like, hey, do y'all have anyone who'd be willing to join the army? I know you won't. You want to host a game show, but we kind of need people. And Lauren's like, well, it can't be Sky, it can't be Ash, and it can't be Patrice, but I can take you back to these four. And Hope's like, okay. So she goes back and she wakes him up, and wakes up Tootie, Tristan, Mel, and Ezekiel. And after Ask, I think that Mel would immediately agree, just for like similar reasons as why Jinx was always into it. Just the chaos and the massacre sounds great to her. And then I think Ezekiel would agree. And while Ezekiel agrees, this would make Tristan agree. And Ezekiel would be like, really? Aren't you not scared and like weak? And of course, Tristan doesn't take offense to this. Instead, Trish basically says something along the lines of, well, you helped me fight my greatest enemy, so now I'll help you fight yours. And Ezekiel's like, okay, that's really cool of you, man, or woman, or person. And Tristan's like, whatever, and just kind of playfully punches him in the arm. So yeah, I think that Ezekiel and Tristan join along with Mel. Meanwhile, Tootie's kind of like, man, I'm too old for this shit. Can I just go home? And Hope's like, sure, I'll take you home. So Tootie is rifted home, and his time in the story, at least for now, is pretty much over. So let me explain two things for this part of our post-credit scenes. The first thing is everyone has kind of just not forgotten about Daisy, but they've kind of just assumed that Daisy found a way to get herself home and didn't feel like waiting. They kind of just don't really know what happened to Daisy. And to be honest, most people don't like her, so they don't really care what happened to Daisy. But the other thing I want to explain is how rift guns work. So basically, kind of the main things you need to know here is that it takes a while for them to align. They're super small machines, so it takes a very long time for them to align to a specific reality. Well, they don't have time for all that. Hope and Chef don't. So instead, they're able to go to like all the past realities they've gone to using these devices. They're able to go to, since they're already preset, like they've already been used, so they're able to go there way faster. So this is how we're about to see the return of a lot of characters. Remember when I said that I wanted Samus and Steve to come? Yeah, so Samus and Steve arrive. They find them making out in the Smash Bros. Universe. But not just them. Chef is able to go to the MLP reality and pick up Green Shadow, Kissy, and even Applejack decides to join, because why the hell not? Which, by the way, Applejack has officially become friends with Kissy and Green Shadow, along with other people on that world, but I really couldn't care less about talking more about that. Other people they know they're able to get is Jinx, and N would be super into this kind of stuff. Also, N would want to help Lauren. And also on that note, characters that I'm bringing onto this team aren't the only characters they're adding. No, actually, I believe there's going to be a hell of a lot more. For example, Samus and Steve are added from Smash Bros., but why the hell would Chef and Hope stop there? No, I believe most of the people that are in the Smash Ultimate roster are brought into this. However, I'm not going to make icons for all of them just for these next like 5 episodes. So yeah, characters like Mario, Link, and a bunch of others like heroic characters, a lot of the Fire Emblem characters, a lot of people are joining as well. Another example of that would be Murder Drones. N is coming, but there's no reason why Uzi or V wouldn't also be coming. So they're going to have a lot of firepower, but that's not it. I think that, yeah, they know Azuko and Monica really didn't want her to get into all this, but they need a really powerful person who can teleport since Sky's busy. So Agatha is picked up along with a lot of the other UA students and pro heroes. They pick up Spider-Man as well as a lot of the Avengers. They pick up the Collector, Jin Woo. They're able to find Toph and the rest of the gang. Like, there's a huge amount of people that are coming. They get Jax, just because why the fuck not? They're just getting whoever. They get Bruce and a lot of the Justice League. They get Dipper because he'll have skills. Luz, and she's able to bring like Amity and Ida and all kinds of stuff. Star, she probably wouldn't bring that many people. Freaking Captain Underpants. Grim comes in. Guinevere gets in. Lena gets in. And even Six is taken out of the Cooking Mama reality because now she can eat the flesh of these villains too. So yeah, see all these people? That's not everyone because we also still have Anne, Marcy, Azuku, Monica, Tails, Chris, Peely, Jonesy, Ezekiel, I'll put on the end, Tristan, and Mel. So I think it's safe to say that there's quite a bit of heroes now, because if I added a Pinterest icon for every single one of these, bro, this would be freaking quadruple the size.